Welcome, friends. This is Pastor Bryan Hudson. Welcome to Conversations in Focus. And I am so blessed to have with me today a man of God, a friend, a father in the faith in our city, and just a pastor, most of all, and most importantly, a man who loves people. And I'm talking about Dr. Preston Adams. Welcome, Dr. Adams.
Thank you, Pastor. Good to be here with you.
Great to have you here.
Yeah, my dear friend and brother.
Amen.
Yeah.
I've asked Pastor to come. We had a conversation over a month ago, and I was asking him, could we talk about integrity, longevity, staying in the game, serving God, and just encouraging young men and women and everybody on some keys and principles on how we can stand and just continue to stand day by day, month by month, year by year. And I say that because both of us together, I've been pastoring for 38 years. You've been pastoring for 30 years, 10 years at Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
So representing 68 years, and then add to that, being ministers before we were pastors. We were ministers before we became pastors. So here we are with all these years of ministry and experience, with the marks in our bodies, in our minds and souls.
We still kicking, right?
And we still kicking.
Not as high, but we still kicking.
We're still kicking.
Yeah.
And so simply, I wanted to have Pastor Adams come and just talk to us and talk to the audience about just some keys to walking in faith and being vibrant and effectual year by year. Longevity, integrity is our topic on today. So let me ask you, first of all, Dr. Adams, what inspires you today to continue to serve God, serve people, and stay encouraged?
Well, that's a great opening question. First of all, I want to give thanks to God for this opportunity, and I want to thank you, my brother, for what you do. You're one of those, what I would call unsung heroes in our community. You do so much behind the scenes. I mean, you have a public ministry as well, but you do so much behind the scenes. Even things like this, thought processes and think tanks and encouraging spaces where pastors like myself can come and grow. Every time I'm around you, I grow. And I need you to know that. Even if it's just looking at what you do and gleaning from little simple things, I grow. So I want to thank you for your 38 years of ministry. I remember when I was serving as a pastor under my pastor, the Honorable Bishop Tom Benjamin, who is now retired at Light of the World Christian Church. I remember you. I remember meeting you as what I would consider then a younger minister, although we're not too much difference in age, but you were already a senior pastor, had been for a while, and I remember you and Bishop would have lunch sometimes, or coffee, or even worship, and we would be together, and that's how I first met you, and I've always admired you as a person who has been consistent. What inspires me, I guess, first and foremost, is just the call. The Apostle Paul said it this way. He said, "Woe be unto me if I do not preach the gospel." And 30 plus years ago, really, I guess 33 years ago, I started pondering my life and what my life meant and my purpose. And it was a 3-year journey. And at the end of that 3 years, at the tender now young age of 30, I realized a call on my life to preach the gospel. And I literally turned my life toward God, and I haven't turned away in those 30 years. I went into this eventually full-time as a youth pastor, and then an associate pastor, an executive pastor, and now a senior pastor. And what has inspired me is just wanting to honor God. Ultimately, as the scripture teaches in that day, I want to hear him say, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant." And then I think as the years went on, what I found and do find to be inspiring is just the people, just serving the people and having people you know, I know you experience this a lot as a pastor too, because you've been at this a long time. When people that you don't even necessarily remember or remember the things that you may have done to help them, or words you said of encouragement, or sermons that you preach, and they come back to you and they say, you know, Pastor, thank you for those words of encouragement when my mother passed away, or when I was having a difficult time, I listened to one of your messages and it gave me encouragement to start a new career or to go back to school. Or so those little things are the things that I call, you know, you golf. So it's kind of like, you know how golf is. Yeah. Those of us who, most of us say we golf, but we really just hit balls around. Right. But every now and then in golf, you'll get that shot.
Yes, you will.
And that shot, you'll be ready to throw it all away, get rid of your clubs, and turn in your golf cart, and then you hit that one shot, and that shot will inspire you to go back out there again. And that's really what I was just referring to with ministry. You know, we hit those low points, yes, you know, where we feel like, is this it? Is my time up? What else do I need to be doing? And then God will send that person along. I call them angels in disguise, you know. And they will come along and they will say, thank you. I had a guy, and then I'll pivot back to you. I had a guy send me a note just a couple weeks ago. Young man sent me a note on Facebook Messenger. Now, we're not friends on Facebook, so he just messaged me. And every now and then I go look at the messages that are, as Facebook does, puts them in a queue, so I go look. And this message was from a young man. I didn't remember him or his name. And it was a picture of his business card, and he works for the Indianapolis Colts now. But this young man was one of the young men that was in an alternative school. You remember New Directions Academy,
I do.
Project Impact.
Yes, I do.
And he was a part of that school. This was 20 years ago, maybe. And he just wanted to write me to say thank you. Thank you. He called me General Adams because that's who I was in that setting. It was a paramilitary style school, discipline academy. And he said, I just want you to know that I turned my life around. Wow. And he had a picture of his business card, and he works for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, those are the moments that inspire me.
Yes. Right. So let me ask you, Pastor, how have you managed through seasons of setback? What specific things have you done to help push back that heaviness and that sense of giving up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't always been as diligent about what you're talking about now as I am today. But first and foremost, I think recognizing that I've hit that point of saturation, that point of what you might call burnout, that point of low grade depression, if you will, that point of feeling like I'm on this gerbil wheel, so to speak, and where's this going? That can be hard to recognize at times because when your head is down and you're plowing the field, you don't always see what's going on around you. So one of the ways that I've done it is I've learned now how to, first of all, as I said, recognize it, but then also how to pull back. So by pulling back, I mean, I've been very diligent, and I think you know this, we were talking about this earlier, in really working to disciple and bring up other leaders. Because I recognize, and I've known this for a long time, that I cannot do this on my own. Yes. None of us get to where we are on our own. You know, we just celebrated 10 years as a church, and people were saying, you know, and I understand why, congratulations, Dr. Adams. But I have to say congratulations, Greta Adams, congratulations, Amazing Grace Christian Church. Yes. Congratulations to the community. Congratulations to everybody that's ever helped us, because you don't get there by yourself. And so what I've learned to do is to pace myself better. I've learned that I don't have to preach every Sunday. Just kind of practical stuff. Like when we started our church, I felt like I couldn't be gone, you know, because it's new. We're starting this. I got to build this up. And so I just didn't want to be gone. And then if I would take a Sunday, that would be it, one Sunday. And then I got to be back the next Sunday. Then I got to go 3 or 4 months. Then maybe I could take another Sunday. Well, over time, you realize that actually wears you down.
Yes.
And so what I've learned to do is say, well, I'm training all these different ministers, and they have gifts and talents. So let me work on a calendar. Let me put together a preaching calendar, and let's intentionally plan times when I will step back from the pulpit, for example, and give others the opportunity to preach. And so that's been helpful. And then I even got to a point where I said, not only do I have to step back from the pulpit, but I need to not even be present on that day. I need to take that Sunday and stay home with my family or whatever the case may be for that moment of self-care. And that's really how I've learned to do it, self-care, learning how to take that time away, take time off. And again, I'm not as good at it as I would like to be. But I can see where as my time continues to, as I'm in this longer, I see more of the value of that. And so now I'm more intentional about utilizing the help around me, as well as saying, okay, you need to take that time for yourself, because that's when you hit your wall. When you Jesus, for example, took time away to pray.
Yes, he did.
Came away from everything. He's the best example we have. And he came away from everything, and he went into the mountains by himself, and he took a boat and went to the other side of the lake. I mean, he did things that show us as pastors and ministry leaders that we've got to take that time off, away. We can't do it all. So if you're out there listening to me and you're a young leader or even an older leader and you're trying to do it all, that actually cripples the ministry. It actually holds the ministry back. And so that's how I've approached it and how I continue to approach it today. And I was hoping to do more traveling, and then COVID hit.
Right.
And so now, my wife and I are intentional. We find spaces locally. We find space together. I spend time with my grandchildren, just, again, practical. I spend time with my kids. I spend time by myself. Sometimes we need time.
Yes.
Just us, and God. And one of the ways that I've dealt with it in the last few years is exercise is another great way that I've dealt with it.
Yes.
I go out and walk regularly 4 or 5 times a week, and those walks are 45 minutes to an hour. And on those walks, it's just me and God.
Yes.
And I can talk to God, and God can talk to me, and it's stress relief, and you can see the birds and the trees and
yes.
the grasshoppers and, that kind of stuff. So you have to find that thing or things, if you will, that take you away from ministry.
Yes.
And allow you that opportunity to just decompress, because if you don't, then you will burn out. And I know you've been there and I've been there, and it's not a good feeling.
No, it's not.
It's not a good feeling.
It's not good for God or God's people.
Yeah.
We want to be there for people long term, which requires pulling back. You mentioned about Jesus. I found this text, Matthew 14:23. It says, and when he had sent the multitudes away.
Yeah. Yeah.
He sent them away.
He sent them away. Yeah.
He went up on a mountain by himself to pray.
Yeah. That's it.
To your point.
Yeah.
He didn't send them away, of course, in any rude fashion.
Right.
He just closed the meeting down.
Exactly. Yeah. Says we're done here.
We're done here.
Yeah.
Next question. Longevity. We know that longevity is good. We also know that it's not just about quantity, but quality. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So longevity, not for long time's sake,
right.
But how do we build quality into longevity?
Well, what I've tried to do, first of all, I had a great model for ministry in my pastor, Tom Benjamin, and I may mention him several more times because He was my model for ministry. My father in the ministry, my pastor. As I have said to him on a number of occasions, even though he's retired, he's still my pastor, will always be my pastor. In fact, I've only had 2 pastors in my entire life. I'm from that era where you committed to something,
yes,
and you were there.
You didn't church hop.
You didn't church hop. What was that actually? But my childhood pastor, long passed away, Reverend John William Clinkscales, Chicago, Illinois, and then Bishop Benjamin. But in terms of that whole thing of modeling integrity, quality, he had a saying, excellence is paying attention to detail. Mm. And I often think about that statement even in how I do ministry now. The goal is to represent yourself well for Christ. Mm. And Pastor, it's interesting that you even asking that question. In this particular season in my life, I've been hearing the Lord say, I was walking yesterday, and I was hearing the Lord say, it's more about kingdom than it is about church. Mm-hmm. Jesus ushered in the kingdom. He didn't usher in the church. Mm. And I think that you hear that statement, you hear kingdom and kingdom chasing and that kind of thing, but I don't know if we really fully understand what that means. The ushering in of the kingdom being God's will in heaven being lived out on earth. Mm. And if we understand it from that perspective, then everything is about quality, and it's really not about quantity. Now, you and I pastor what are called in some circles small congregations, and others growing congregations, in the sense that we're in an organism and we're always growing. Yes. So the benefit of that, as I see it, is having a unit of people that you can galvanize around a mission.
Yes.
And so that's kind of where I am with it now. It's about, I'm like most other pastors and church leaders. I mean, when we launched our church 10 years ago, of course I had this grandiose vision of how the church would blow up, and and we would have all these people that would come, and God gave us that for a season, but then he began to shape us and mold us and bring us back down to what I consider to be a really, really tight knit core of people that can get a lot done. The quality. So now I'm not as much motivated by the quantity. I mean, sure, if people come, great, because I want as many people to hear the gospel as can hear it. But here's the reality with the kind of medium that we're using now, we don't have to be in a place with a bunch of people sitting in a place. We can use these kinds of mediums to get the word out to literally hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people. Yes. So the terrain has changed, but the quality of it says things like this. What kind of mission does your church have? Mm-hmm. What kind of ministry are you doing beyond the pulpit? Mm-hmm. I tell people all the time, and I would say this particularly to young leaders, I know part of what we want to do is hopefully speak to some of you. Mm-hmm. From our 68 years of ministry experience, makes us sages, if you will. In some cases, old men or whatever you want to call us, but we're still here, right? And we're here because we've learned a few things. So I would say to younger pastors, and I say this to younger pastors, even the ones that I'm nurturing, what is your mission in ministry? What is your goal? How are you reaching the community? How are you serving the community? Because I think what I see too often is an inward focus. And it's all about, how my service looks on Sunday, whether I have the best band and the choir. COVID wiped all that out. Yeah. So now everybody's even, right? Because none of us can brag and boast about bands and choirs and all that stuff and how many people are showing up at church because, COVID said, y'all need to take a break from all of that.
Right.
But it's really forced us, and should be forcing us, to rethink. Quality in ministry says, What ministry programs do I have that are serving the homeless, serving the less fortunate? How are we feeding people? How are we helping to get people registered to vote?
Yes.
You know, we're in one of the most critical political seasons that I think you and I would probably say we've been in
my lifetime,
in
no
our
doubt,
lifetime.
no doubt.
You know, and we've seen a few presidential races, but this one is, you know, critical.
Yes.
Not just presidential, but all the stuff that goes with it.
Yes.
So how are we registering people to vote? How are we helping people that are losing their homes or losing their apartments because they can't pay rent? How are we helping, you know, what they call the gig workers, you know, the Uber drivers and people that are servers in restaurants that are closed down? How are we supporting our schools and the children? You know, your wife is an educator.
Yes.
So how are we supporting them and all of the concerns? So the quality in ministry says that I'm not really looking to just grow an organization to have a bunch of members, as much as I'm saying, how do I utilize the resources that I have available to me through me as the shepherd of that house or one of the ministry leaders in that house? How do I use those resources to help make my community better? That's the quality.
Pastor, the church has literally left the building.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll preach.
we used to say that.
We can say that.
We should.
We can say
we should
that,
go out.
Yeah.
But now we have since March of 2020.
Yes, sir.
And so that now we see what is the foundation of our philosophy, of our ministry.
Right.
What's the quality of our ministry?
Right.
Because we can't rely upon the trappings of the choir and the musicians and such.
That's good.
We're down to where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
How we walk with Jesus.
Yeah.
How we exegete Scripture.
Yeah.
How we care for people.
Yeah.
And I got a call today. Member went to the hospital, and my instinct was to run right down there.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. Right.
Yeah. Likewise.
We one person at a time, and the family was there. I couldn't go.
Right.
We've had people. We've lost people. People have passed.
Right.
And so we're in a season where the quality of ministry now is, I can't be with you.
Right.
What's my prayer quality? My quality of prayer.
Right.
What's the quality of my exhortation when I speak to you on the phone?
That's right.
What's the quality of my being able to prepare a message and deliver it in 10 minutes?
That's right. That's right.
20 minutes.
Yeah, that's right.
Without the support of the Amen Corner.
That's right.
And so this season has, Pastor, raised a lot of issues for us.
Yes.
And we're finding that those of us who've been around for a while, we've already figured things out. We learned a long time ago that God's able.
That's right.
That phrase, God is able.
That's right.
And we've seen him through different types of seasons.
Right.
This is a different kind of season.
Right.
We've faced other challenges before and have found grace from God.
That's good.
Name of your church is my favorite word in the Bible is grace. It's Amazing Grace.
Amazing
and
Grace.
I remember that song, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. And so we're back in that season, brother. Amazing Grace.
Right, we are.
And so it is the grace of God that is empowering us and giving us the quality that we need.
Right.
And that will lead to longevity. Longevity will take care of itself. If we put the quality in, you'll be around to do it for a while.
You mentioned some really critical things. You talk about longevity, and you talk about God said, and again, just kind of speaking to our younger leaders, younger pastors and others. We have to be careful not to. Well, first of all, we have to think long term. I mean, I think longevity is really, when you ask that question, how do you maintain longevity, or the whole idea of longevity is the long game.
Yes.
If you think about a sport, or you think about any competition, or even if you think about life.
Well, chess, the game of chess is an example.
You're thinking about, we should be thinking long term. So we shouldn't just be saying, well, how many people can I get to show up on a Sunday? We should be thinking, what is the church going to look like in a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Because, and honestly speaking, what does it look like without me as the head? We've been doing this long enough now, and we've had these conversations around succession and how, in our stage of ministry, we're asking God to show us who comes next. Just being honest. And I know a lot of times we don't want to have those conversations, kind of like in families, we don't want to have conversations about death. But it's one of those things that's going to happen, and ultimately we're better prepared for it if we prepare for it.
Yes.
So when you think longevity, I think one key I would say to that is actually thinking long term. Not just thinking about what's going to happen now, what's going to happen in the next, Sunday, few Sundays, month, 2 months, but thinking, for example, what is the church going to look like post-COVID? Yes. Now, again, as you mentioned, some of the effects of COVID are going to be with us forever. From obviously the tragedy and loss of lives, people that have contracted COVID and have become ill from it and have lasting effects, physical effects, those things, are going to be scars that will stay with us. But as an organization, as a church body, here's a reality. A reality is that some of the people that were part of our churches that we're not able to see now because we're not meeting physically regularly, and they're not necessarily connected to our social media side, some of those people are gone and they won't come back. Yes. That's a reality. And that's not God working against us or any of that. It's just reality that there's been a break in the normal pattern. And it's like any other normal pattern. Now the new habit that's been developed is we're not getting up on Sunday, going to church as we were. Right. Now we're getting up on Sunday, and if we're faithful, we're going to the live stream to watch church. But if that wasn't even a priority, then I'm disconnected even more from the body of Christ. Yes. So longevity is thinking, so what's next for our ministry? How do we not only survive this, but how do we thrive in it? I think about, and I'll close this part of it, I think about a lot about two populations in our church specifically, and I know you do as well. But I think about our children, yes, and I think about our seniors, of which I'm close to being one of them. But I think about our children. How do we keep our children connected to Christ and the church? Now, the easy answer to that is it should happen in the homes. Right. But you and I have pastored long enough to know that that doesn't always happen. Right. That oftentimes when people bring their kids to church, that's when they get to know Jesus. That's when I got to know Jesus. It may be when you got to know Jesus. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And it's when a lot of people that we pastor get to know Jesus. So I think about our children, then I think about our seniors, because on both ends of those spectrums are people that are not necessarily social media folks. Now, I'm not saying the seniors are not, and definitely the kids can be that. But my point is, the ones in between have more control over being able to say, oh, church is coming on at 11 o'clock. Let me go get my phone and turn it on. Kids don't often think like that. Right. And many of our seniors may not be in that mode. Yes. So how do we minister to them? Again, speaking to our leadership and younger leadership, how do we minister to them? What can we do to reach them? How can we think long term about if this thing does go beyond, they were saying, I was listening to a report today saying may have a vaccine by the end of the year. Some people say that's possible, others say it's not. The conservative estimates say the spring of 2021. So how do we go the next 6 months? We're already what, 7 months into this? Yes, 7 months in. So that'll be over a year. Right. So that's what longevity. That's where it comes from, thinking long term. Yes, it does. And there's no doubt COVID has really challenged us at every level. Yeah. Because we know scripturally, assembling is what God designed us to do, assemble together. Absolutely. And that some folk need that physical presence. Yeah. They can't really get it. Yeah. They don't do as well online. Right. That's right. We know this. So how do we get there? Well, we have to use what we have. Yeah. And we have phones, we can send text messages, all the above. Yeah. Because even with live stream, I started mailing cards. again.
The good old mail.
The good old mail.
The good old U.S. mail.
Good old
yes,
U.S.
sir.
mail. I mean, again, my young leaders,
yes.
please don't throw away the old stuff.
Yes.
It still works.
It still works.
You know, picking up the phone, calling someone still works. That's what I believe you're getting at.
I'm saying,
you know, we in this text world, non-verbal communication.
Yeah.
But listen, you know, and you and I have done this. We've been texting sometimes, and one of us will go, wait a minute, man. Let me just call this guy,
you
because we're in a conversation that is beyond all these texts.
Yes.
Pick up the phone and call.
Yes.
You know, again, I started mailing cards, just thank you cards to members. You know, and people were amazed. I've had a few people say to me, you know, Pastor, I got your card, and that was just so wonderful. Wow, I mean, and it was handwritten, and what they said is he actually took time to write this card.
That's good,
and that meant something. So these are the kinds of things that I think we have to think about.
Yes, this is what God is helping us to see.
Yeah,
to kind of rediscover.
Yeah,
that technology is great. I'm into tech, you know that.
Yeah,
but I believe
sometimes.
Well, yes, but you know what? But mailing a card is a technology.
It's a technology. That's
technology is something you can do repeatedly. Okay,
that's right. That's right.
And so tech isn't always electronic.
Right. That's right.
All right. Another question. Let me ask you this. Let's talk about money in terms of how important is it as individuals and ministries to get ourselves squared away for. Now, this is a big question. No time to delve deep into it. I'll just suffice to say, let's make it simple. What are a couple of things to keep in mind to not let money become a problem for us in this season?
Yeah. Well, yeah, as you said, that's it's layered in so many different ways. So money is a medium of exchange. Let's be real, we need it because that's how our society functions. But yet, we're warned against the love of money, you know, being the root of all evil. Not money being the root of all evil,
money,
but the love of money being
right.
the root of all evil.
Right.
So I like to say that we have to ask God to help us to be good stewards of what He gives us.
Yes. So
all of us will have different levels of stewardship because we'll have different levels of resources. And my experience is if we utilize what God gives us wisely, then God will not only take care of our needs, but He'll also give us many of our desires.
Yes.
I think many times when people struggle financially, it's not so much because they don't have access to finances. This is just my observation. I think that it's more because of a lack of good stewardship.
Yes.
For example, you know, our parents, didn't have what we have. If you think about it, they had a lot less. I know my mother had a whole lot less than I've had, but she was able to take care of a family of 4, 5, including her, keep a roof over our head, keep food on the table, clothes on our back. You know, she worked hard to do that. And now what I realize is she was a good steward of what God gave her, and that's how she was able to do it. And so this is what I've tried to teach our children. My wife and I have tried to teach our children, be good stewards. For example, tithing is good stewardship. You know, people have their qualms about tithing, and we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. Right. But I think if you look at tithing as part of a stewardship plan,
yes,
you honor God with with a percentage of what God has given you as a show of gratitude to God. Not that you're giving to the church per se or to a man or a woman per se. You're showing gratitude, okay? And I say to people, so then if you have a problem with the church, give to a charity. Give to United Way. Give to UNCF, give to your local university, give to Martin University, give somewhere, just be a giver. So that's part of it. And then I believe we have to be wise enough to save money. We have to take a certain percentage of what we make, even if it's a small percentage, and try to have some form of a savings. because every day is not going to be sunny, as we know.
Right.
You're going to have those rainy days, and it's good to have something set aside where if you do have to fix a tire, or if you own a home, you have to repair a pipe or whatever you have to do, you have a little money to help you to do that. And then just shepherd the rest of it, steward the rest of it. So money is important, but it's not the most important thing, because money can also cause a lot of challenges. It can cause a lot of breakups. It can cause a lot of heartache. As pastors, if we're not careful, we can get caught into that money game. You know, for example, we can get caught into, as you mentioned earlier, where the offerings are, where they're not. Who's giving what and who's not giving, and you have to guard yourself against that. And honestly, what I would say, and I'll close this part of the question like this: what I would say to younger pastors and younger leaders, especially if you're looking at full-time work in the ministry, the terrain has changed a lot since the time when we came into this. So when we came into ministry, the church as an organization was more inclined to be that support system for that pastor and his or her family. Now, not so much, because ideologies have changed.
Right.
And again, that's a whole different other subject. But just trust me when I tell you, ideologies have changed. And so you may not find a ministry that either is willing or able to support you and your family at the level that you may want to be supported in order to have a decent lifestyle. So you have to do things like what Bryan and I have done. You have to find other means. I consult. I do executive coaching with executive leaders and other pastors. You can write books. They don't make you a lot of money, but but you might get a royalty here and there.
Right.
But you can write books. You may have a vision for starting a nonprofit organization where you provide services to the community that can produce a little income for you and your family. And you may just have a conventional job. You might just be that guy that delivers mail or whatever you do. But I think that going into this thinking that you're going to live solely off of the ministry is one of those realities that has changed in the last 10, 15 years.
Yes, it has. Yes.
So that's what I would say about money. I even have younger pastors, and I've got some under me that have a calling to shepherd, and they see themselves making that transition, but they're in career fields, and I tell them, stay in your field.
Right.
Well, Pastor, but you made that transition. Yeah, but that was 30 years ago. Stay in your field, finish your time, build your retirement, and at that point then, if the Lord still is saying to you, ministry, full-time ministry, now you have something you can stand on, and you don't have to depend on the will and pleasure of the people.
Yes.
Because you and I both know that can be precarious.
That is precarious. That can be.
Just keeping it real.
Yes, I would advise as well in this season, watch out for scams. People want to take your money and scam you out of your money. Yeah. And we get these emails come through. We had voicemails coming to the church the past couple of weeks from quote-unquote IPL. We're on disconnect notice.
Oh, wow.
Disconnect notice. And, call right now and pay your bill.
Amazing.
Well, we're a debt-free ministry. You know what I'm saying? We got money in the bank. It's impossible that we have outstanding bills.
See what I mean?
At this point. So watch out for scams. And also, in integrity, we want to really be honest about our situation where we are financially.
That's true.
And not live above our means, as Pastor said. And I think giving and tithing is fundamental for believers in Christ. Right. And the philosophy is quite simple. God owns everything. Everything we have has come from Him.
That's right.
And so we give a part of it back to Him. Right. Just a part.
Just a small
Just
portion.
a part, 10%. 10%. And then offering above that. Right. And the blessing of that in any season, whether it's COVID, whether it's boom market, bear market, whatever he calls markets,
right.
that God will make sure that you're taken care of.
Absolutely.
And so don't get hung up on that. It's not a religious matter. It's just a matter of faith.
Right.
A matter of a heart.
Right.
Where we give and support and be generous in all types of ways.
That's right.
Not just financially. There are 3 T's: time, treasure, and talents.
That's good.
Time, treasure, talent. You give, you tithe in all those ways.
Right.
And I would encourage us to look to God. Whatever God blesses you with, bless somebody else with a portion of that.
That's right.
Bless God with a portion of that. And take care of your pastor.
Yeah.
Take care of your pastor.
Yeah.
Make sure he or she is taken care of and encouraged. Because COVID has taken a toll on all of us.
That's right.
And we pastors have had, it's been tough for us as well.
That's right.
Now, we don't go around talking about woe is us.
Right.
But the fact is, we miss our people.
We do. We do.
And not being around people is, I mean, for OG pastors,
right. That's right.
we are wired
right.
for people.
Yeah.
And not being with people, touching people, hugging people
right.
is somewhat, I won't say it's traumatic, but it is difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's I think you hit it on the head. I think there's a level of trauma to it. I mean, that's why I was kind of getting that with the children and the senior analogy earlier, but everybody in between. I mean, I've had the benefit over this past 6 or 7 months of in some settings. For example, I was at a birthday party this past Saturday for one of our members. And so there might have been, I don't know, another 10 or 15 of our members that showed up at the party. And it was just great seeing everybody because some of these people I hadn't seen in person.
Even half their face.
Just half the face, right. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Just half the face.
I hadn't seen some of these people in months, like other than, again, on a Facebook post or something like that. So you're right. For those of us who are relational pastors, and if you're that person, if you're a relational pastor, relational leader, we feel you. I know I do, and I know this pastor does too. You want to touch your people. You want to share love with your people. We have a mother in our church that just loves her pastor and her first lady. Those are the ones that keep us going too.
Yes, sir.
And so every Sunday she comes in church. She never wants to miss church. Every Sunday she comes in church with her family, and she looks for her pastor and first lady, and she wants to kiss us on the cheek. Every Sunday she comes right up to the front. She comes right, it don't matter what you're doing, she's coming right in there, and I look forward to that. I'm like, where's Mother Tate? I need to see Mother Tate. Then get that kiss, then I can preach, like a madman. And then after church, I'm the guy like you that greets people afterwards, shaking hands and have a good day and rest of your week and all of that stuff, and kissing the babies and stuff, and get my last kiss from Mother Tate. I miss that.
Yes.
I mean, that's something that I miss tremendously. But in the same vein, we want to be safe, and we want people to be safe, and we want to make sure, and I like what you said about caring for the pastor and his family. We're blessed, Pastor. I know you are, because I know of your ministry, and our church, we're blessed. And I know a number of other pastors that are blessed to have ministries, churches that do care for their pastors. So I don't want you to think, if you're a young leader, that, this doesn't happen. It does. Our church is very generous. They care for me and my family. This pastor's church cares for him and his family. But again, the ideology around that has changed so much. And so just being wise says, as Mama used to say, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. And really, she used to say, it's a poor rat that's got one hole. I thought I'd throw that out. That's my mama. Bless her heart in heaven. Bernice Adams, she used to say that. And really, she was teaching the principle of multiple streams.
Yes.
Without me even knowing that's what she is.
It's a poor rat.
It's a poor rat that's got, it's a po rat.
Po rat.
Not a poor rat.
Right.
You gotta say po. It's a po rat that's got one hole.
One hole. Oh, my
God. Think about it. If you just, we grew up with mice in the house, so maybe that's where she got it from. But, you know, we would plug the holes up, or she would plug the holes up where the mice were. So I guess if that rat only had one way to get in and out, then he was messed up because she plugged that one up. He didn't have another way. He was out.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So that was her analogy. But I think that's something that we've learned over time.
Yes.
And it also eases the burden on the church, too. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, I think, you know, people want to take care of their pastoral leadership, but they also want the ministry to do what ministry should do.
Yes.
You know, and that's care for the people and care for the community. So to the degree that we can take those stresses off of the church, that's helpful. And that's something that I had to learn, you know, the hard way, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I trust you've been blessed and just inspired by these conversations, by this conversation, and by Dr. Adams. And let me share one final thought with you. Also, a thought from Pastor as well.
Yeah.
Proverbs 7 talks about something Andy Stanley calls the path principle. And the text just starts out in verse 7, Proverbs 7, saying, "At the window of my house I looked through the lattice, and I saw among the simple, I noticed among them a young man, a youth who lacked judgment, who was going down the street near her corner." The path principle is not what you intend that matters. It's not what you say you want to do. What matters is what path are you on. The path you're on determines where you're going. And so the text here indicates that this woman, which we know later on was a harlot, was looking out her window and watching this simple-minded person coming down that road, down that path, going toward her house. And long and short of it, when he got there, she enticed him. And the moral to the story is pay attention to the path you're on.
Wow.
Because your intentions don't matter as much as where your feet are planted.
Yeah.
And I've taught this in our church before, and we tell people that, you know what, that's not a party you're going to, that's a path.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That person you're hooking up with, that's a path.
Path.
That so-called opportunity, that's not really a business venture, it's a path.
It's a path.
That email that invites you to click here,
that's a path.
That's a path.
Yeah.
So I just say, you know, mind the path of your feet. Mind where you step. Jesus talks about this. The Bible talks about it. Proverbs talks about it. Pay attention to the path you're on. Pastor?
Yeah, well, that's an amazing analogy. And what I got out of that myself was she saw him coming. And she sat there and literally said, if he stays on this path, he will end up at my door.
I got him. Right.
And I got him. I would say that, just keeping with your path analogy, search your heart and be honest with yourself about the path you're on, as well as the path that you believe God has placed you on. And if you find that you are off path, you're off the path that God placed you on, then have the courage to get back on that path. And when you have that courage, it may cause you to lose friends, family, direction, but in the end, you won't have any regrets. One of the things that I feel so good about at this stage in my life is that I know when I look back that I followed the path God gave me. I got off the path at times. I'm just being honest. But God, the grace of God, allowed me to get back on the path, and the purpose that I saw with my life 30 years ago is being fulfilled. And that's something that I lay down at night and I sleep well. I feel good about that. I have no regrets. And I think that's what I would try to say to all of our younger leaders. Live your life in such a way that you have no regrets. And trust God. Be willing to take the risk, because we will tell you that it's a risk.
It is.
But with God, it's a risk that's worth it. And we just hope that something we've said today has been helpful to you, and that you will find not only your path, but that you'll stay the course. That's kind of my closing statement. Stay the course. Once you find that path, stay the course.
All right. Well, thank you, Pastor Preston Adams, Amazing Grace Church.
Thank you, Pastor.
I appreciate you so much being here and talking to us and helping us all. And this is Conversations in Focus. This has been a very special time. The longest program on record we've ever done.
Well, you know how me and you do. So.
But this is among the most important seasons of our lives. So I trust something was said that encouraged you. We're about encouragement, all about encouragement, and I pray you're encouraged. So leave some comments. If you're on Facebook watching this, leave some comments. Get in touch with us, myself or Dr. Adams. We're here to serve you and be a blessing to you however we can. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.